Welcome back everybody to Madden 17. My name is MrHurriicane, and in this video, I will be walking you guys through an entire offseason in this year's version of franchise mode. I will be going through each stage, and starting now with the Super Bowl. This is scouting. I wanted to show this because they've changed the point totals for unlocking skills. Now it's 15 for the first skill, then 10, then 5. So it does change the way that you want to go about scouting players, because you can't just scout everybody for 5 points and know their first rating and use deductive reasoning to figure out who to ignore and who to continue scouting. So I might have to talk a little bit more at some point about how to efficiently scout in Madden 17. But at this point, I am now into the off-season. It's the first stage, and it's re-signing and retirements. And I've simulated the off-season twice, and I've seen different retirements, so it's not the exact same. In this year, it happened that Delanie Walker had retired. Before, when I wasn't recording, it was Danny Woodhead retiring unexpectedly. Here is a look at what the league news looks like now. You get those mock tweets, along with just headline stories, and I think I like this layout a lot more. It's a little bit more smooth, and you can get a lot more information quicker, I believe. Now you go on to re-signing, and I like the new screens for re-signing, and the contract demands have gotten a lot better, especially for players in the low 80s and 70s. In past years, it's been very easy to keep your 70 overall rated players, and players that are just under 80 overall, or even sometimes in the low 80s. But to keep Matt KALIL, an 80 overall tackle, it's $27.1 million over 4 years. I tried to lowball him, and it tells me that he has declined the offer. Here is 73 overall wide receiver Charles Johnson, who wants a little over $3 million a year. In the past, he would not be asking for this much money, and this is going to lead to tougher decisions in free agency because everybody is asking for more realistic values. And when you're doing this, you get to see all this important information at just a couple button presses. You have the skills, the core attributes, and the secondary, along with progression history. And I had lowballed Matt KALIL and Charles Johnson. They both declined the offers. So with Cordero, I wanted to actually make the offer that he wanted, and even that was declined. And there are a lot of players who did this to me. So I'm thinking this year you have to be a little bit more aggressive with your offers, because if you're going to offer the baseline deal, why should the player accept that when he can try running up the price with other teams in free agency? I tried to re-sign Matt ASIATA, going from 1.85 to 1.89. That wasn't enough. So with Adam THIELEN, I tried increasing it by 800,000, and that got him to accept. So I'll have to do a lot more experimenting with this to see what it takes to re-sign certain players. And here are a lot of the contracts that were given out. They are much larger than you've seen in the past for players that are, again, lower rated, not the top tier players. But these contracts are much more realistic, and it will add more strategy to how you rebuild your teams in franchise mode. So we sim past re-signing stage, and now we're at unrestricted free agency. And nobody was a higher overall than 83. The high-rated players are not hitting the free agent market. I will do more simming to see what players do eventually hit the market. I'm sure at some point you're going to see higher 80s, maybe lower 90s. But this was a very weak free agent pool, and I went to go try signing some players. Here's Jeremy Miles wanting $6.46 million over 2 years, but because nobody had bid on him, I made a lower offer. And when you make an offer, there's now a point system. There are points given to this offer based on the salary, signing bonus, contract length, and team prestige. Or it's an other category, and it was for team prestige. Then I tried Josh Gordon, and he wanted a little under $5 million a year, and I wanted to compare my offer to offers other teams had made. And it's great going to see his ratings here. You see the analysis. He's the 56th ranked wide receiver. There are his traits right there. He has normal development. I made him an offer. It was worth 83 points. And it was actually tied with the Oakland Raiders for the best offer, which you'll see in this screen. What I like about this point system is that I could go actually less on the contract length, higher on things like salary and signing bonus, and try to lure him to Minnesota by giving him a more lucrative 2-year deal, and strategize that way. So Josh Gordon declined my offer, but Jeremy Miles had accepted after the first stage. And this year, the higher rated free agents are going to sign sooner, like in real life, and then it tapers off and you start signing more of those depth players and guys that might not even make the team. And here are a look at more of the contracts that were handed out. And a lot of these look great to me. We don't see a lot of contracts for under $1 million unless those players are very low rated. Here are the contracts for the highest rated free agents, and there weren't that many of them, but THIELEN and Benny Logan had two of the best contracts. We're going to sim past this stage of free agency, now in off-season stage 3, and this is the final free agent stage, which there are 3 of them, and you can scout along the way, and these are more contracts that were given out. I like highlighting this because I think it's a very good part of the off-season this year. Now on to stage 4, and this is your final scouting stage before you move on to the NFL draft. If you haven't noticed, the structure of the offseason is the same as last year's, but some of the inner workings of like free agency and re-signing, but it's very similar to last year, but I wanted to show you how differently things played out. If you remember last year, the safeties in the draft classes were terrible, so I first wanted to scout safeties in this year's classes, and that last one you just saw was a very good strong safety prospect. You'll see his eventual ratings after he is drafted. And here are the trades that were made during the offseason. It was a 4 and a 7 for Bruce Irvin. That was the Buccaneers and Raiders trading. And then an intriguing one here. It was Jeremy Hill to the Eagles for Jason Kelce and a 6th round draft pick. And after that first wave of retirements, there was one more additional retirement with left tackle Jason Peters of the Eagles. So we sim past stage 4, and now it is the draft. You can see the free agency recap just like last season. We'll do that right now. And it's quite similar. You just see who was signed, and you can see who is still available. Trent Cole was the highest rated player who did not get signed. And now we'll move on to the NFL draft. It is set up the same as last year on this menu. When you draft a player, there are a few more pieces of information. I would like to see them actually put the full name there for the player, and maybe their overall next to them, or at least something so we can see information about them. But I think it would be smarter to do that in a way that didn't actually reveal how good those players were, because you could use it as strategy when you draft, and that's not how the draft works. Now, we're going to see a few of the players that I drafted here, and without scouting, I ended up reaching on a bunch of them, but you get to see the player's development right away. Here is Leroy Hayward-Bay, good strength, good pass block. You can see his secondary ratings. He is the 24th best left tackle in the league. He is undisciplined in terms of penalty bias. So a lot of information here quickly. You don't have to go through so many menus and spend that time finding that information. It's more efficient this year. I took a safety here in the next round who had only 71 zone coverage, so that was disappointing. The really good safety I wanted ended up being taken in the first round, so I didn't get to draft him, obviously, and we'll take a look at his ratings later. But I like seeing their development and the information here, although I am a little bit mixed on how I feel about seeing all their ratings during a draft, because you could draft a player in the first round, he stinks, so you just draft another one at the same position in the second, and that's not how the draft plays out either. So it's imperfect. It fits for a video game, but I still have mixed feelings about it. I actually took a good player for his value in this round with Tanner Trahan, a middle linebacker with good speed, block shedding, tackling is there. Another thing I'd like to point out is that the pictures now, it's actually just a generated photo of what that player will look like in the game, which I think is a big improvement upon just the recycled pictures they kept using, a lot of them for many different players. Here in the 7th round with my final selection, I took a player named Diamond because it was the 7th round. Gotta find those diamonds in the rough. Good size, good athletic traits from the combine, but 74 man, 74 zone, and 49 play rec. So not very good there. And we will just simulate to the end of the draft and move on to the draft recap, which is similar to last year's, but again with more information that is easier to get to. You also have your adjustment to roster phase where you can actually change the position for players. But otherwise, this looks the same, but what's cool is when you go to look at players, whether it's your own team or not, you can easily look at an organized view of their ratings. And here is that safety, London Kreiner. He was taken by the Chargers, 91 speed, 81 zone coverage, 92 hit power. There are good safeties in this game. I don't know how many there are in each class, but here is a great safety. Also in Madden 17 franchise mode this year is full player editing, so I just went into London Kreiner's information here and I made him 6'6", because why not? If you want to edit rookies and maybe other players that you might see on opposing teams' equipment or whatever, then you can go in there easily and just do that from this menu. Here was a very good middle linebacker that the Panthers had drafted I wanted to show. Look at the speed, tackling, hit power, and pursuit. And this is a look at the adjust roster. Again, it's the only time you can change a player's position. And I end up doing that here with Jerick McKinnon because the Vikings on here had acquired like 8 running backs. So I decided to move one to wide receiver. And you can change the player type and just all this little information here. It's full player editing if you want to do that with your franchise. And here are the news stories around this time of the franchise. These are all draft stories. I like how they size things based on importance and they highlight like the drafting, and then the takes on the draft picks are a little bit smaller. It's a cleaner menu. I like the news a lot, and I'll probably be showing that more in my franchise episodes this year. So that is the preseason. It is very similar to last year, but some of the inner workings have been tweaked. And I would say that the offseason in Madden 17 is better than the offseason in Madden 16. I hope moving forward they can expand upon this and include a few new features and go deeper into things like contract negotiations and whatnot. I'll talk about potential franchise improvements I would like to see in a different video. But I wanted to test out trading before I ended this gameplay, and so I wanted to try trading for Cowboys backup quarterback Dak Prescott. A 6th round pick wasn't enough, but you get to see that meter fill up. You see how much interest they have, and I added 2 players to the list here, and that was enough for them to trade me Dak Prescott. So there you guys go. That is what an off-season in Madden 17 franchise mode looks like. Would you like to see me go into anything else in franchise mode this year just to show the inner workings of the mode? Would you like to see anything else? Let me know down below in the comments section. Thank you all for watching. Please leave a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe for much more Madden 17 content on the way, especially from franchise mode. I'll see you guys next time. Have a great day.